So once again, welcome to the Cambridge February webinar series for teachers from our wide region, which covers UK, Ireland, Malta, Eastern Europe, Southern Europe, Middle East, Turkey, and Africa. So this webinar series is especially designed and offered by our regional exams expert, Darren Perrett, in order to support you prepare your learners effectively for our Cambridge exams and focusing on reading skills this year. So today is the second of the 4 weekly webinars. So we'll focus on A2 key and B1 preliminary for schools today. And on the next two Thursdays of February, we'll look also at the next exams like B2 first for schools next Thursday, and C1 advanced and C2 proficiency the Thursday after. Again, it will be on Thursday mornings at the same time, 8:30 UK time. So we hope to see you again for the next sessions as well. So if you have any questions about the exams, about registrations, or any other details, please contact our authorized exam centers. My colleague Zila will now paste in the chat box a link where you can search for exam centers in your country and contact them if you have any questions about the registrations or any other details about our exams. So you just select your location, your country, and then you search in order to find the available exam centers. Here you can see an example for Greece. So a part of the Cambridge February webinars that we discussed earlier, we also have our regional Cambridge Day online, again for the same region, for our region, for UK, Ireland, Eastern Europe, Middle East, Turkey, and Africa. So teachers in our region, please join us for the Cambridge Day on Saturday, the 24th of February. Here you can see the agenda for that day with very interesting topics on primary and multimedia projects with Claire Rose, then on secondary about how to get teenagers talking, again with Claire Rose, and then we'll have Jim Fuller talking us about the Cambridge exam journey and tips to ensure learner success at every level. And finally, we close with Matt Ellman and a discussion and presentation about AI in the ELT classes. We're also very excited to let you know that we launch soon the Cambridge English Qualifications Digital. So from March 2024, we'll be moving from our current computer-based exam delivery to Cambridge English Qualifications Digital, which offer you and your students many more benefits. So the Cambridge English Qualifications Digital will be available for the levels from A2 key up to C2 proficiency from March 2024. Here you can see the list of exams, and they bring some very important benefits. Here you can see the benefits like how fast the results will be. They will be available in 5 to 10 working days. There will be, of course, flexibility around exams registration. So exam sessions will be available up to 365 days a year, but you have to arrange, of course, the session in collaboration with your exam center. And of course, there will be digital features that will help candidates better focus and control their time, for example, during the session. So here you can see that for listening, headphones will be available with volume control. Then for writing, they will be able to see the word count. They will have editable text and font size and color adjustment. And also for reading, they will be able to make notes and highlight text on screen for keeping track. So these are very important benefits for the candidates' experience during the session. And we are sure that they will love this new digital experience that Cambridge will be offering. If you have any questions about Cambridge English Qualifications Digital, there will be a webinar offered by our central team again in February next week. So now my colleague Zilla will paste in the chat box the link for you to register for that one. So the page with the global sessions, upcoming global sessions, where you can find the details about this webinar and register, of course, for free. And also it's quite important to mention that digital sample papers have become available on each of the preparation pages for each of the exams. So you can see that in the sample test category, we have 3 different versions available: sample tests for paper-based, digital, and computer-based exams. So now let's have a very quick look at the resources available to help you prepare your students for A2 Key and B1 Preliminary. Of course, the very popular trainers can help you a lot with exam preparation. So official Cambridge preparation material. So yes, please find out more about this series if you haven't used them already. And also the authentic practice tests for A2 Key and B1 Preliminary for schools, volumes 1 and 2 are available. Of course, this is the version with answers, but the version without answers is also available for your students. As far as official exam preparation is concerned, Test and Train is also available for these learners, so that your learners can practice online and be exam ready for their for the official, exam day. Also, the preparation section for each of the exams is quite an important resource for you to look at, as you can find there all the exam essentials, teacher essentials, and learner essentials. So if you visit our exam pages, on the left side menu, you choose preparation and you visit the preparation page with all the resources that we'll now have a quick look at. So starting with exam essentials, you can see, of course, official Cambridge English preparations materials. We've already had a look at authentic practice tests and trainers. You can also find vocabulary lists for both these exams. Sample tests, as discussed earlier, for paper-based, digital, and computer-based exams. Also, an updated guide about the Cambridge English Scale Explained and how you convert the practice test scores or sample test scores to Cambridge English Scale scores. Digital exam information, computer-based exam information, also what to expect on the exam day, and some speaking test videos to watch with your students. Apart from the exam essentials, there's also a category with teacher essentials, and there you can find the updated handbook for teachers, where you can also find information about the digital version of the exam, some lesson plans, teacher guides, a mock test toolkit for these levels, posters and classroom activities that you can see on the top here, the different posters that are available, and there are also more designs with words so that you can use them also in the classroom to practice vocabulary, and there are some ideas about how to use these posters. There is also the vocabulary booklet, as we discussed, classroom warmers booklet, a guide about how to support learners with dyslexia, some webinars for teachers and their recordings, and of course our official Teaching English with Cambridge Facebook page. Here you can see some more the covers of some more assets. So we have the vocabulary booklet here, okay, and some other resources. Weekly is quite an important resource as well, as it helps you plan your lessons. So you choose the exam you're interested in, and then you choose how many weeks you have for exam preparation, and you also select the exam preparation time per week so that you can build your plan, your teaching plan. It's a quite useful tool. Would love to hear from you if you have used it already, what your experience was with Weekly. So please write in the chat box here. So again, here is an example about how quickly you can build a lesson plan and how you will get your students prepared based on their level, on the time you have available, and how much time you can spend each week on lessons, so that you can get your lesson plan easily and quickly. More resources, free resources available for teachers, like Kahoots for Work and Write and Improve. So here are Kahoots for B1 and B2 levels, for the for school version here that you can use in your classes with school-aged learners. And last but not least, here we have some learner essentials like free online learning activities that your students can use in order to practice English, exam information for candidates, self-study lesson plans, and our social media pages for learners. Our Exam Lift app, which is available for A2 Key, B1 Preliminary, and B2 First, is another great resource that you can download for free and encourage your learners to download for free and practice their English wherever they are. So another great resource here. And also for teachers, there is this amazing page with resources for teachers where you can search by qualification, by CFR level, by resource, and by skill, and then click on search button and see all the available resources that Cambridge offers to teachers. So please try this out. We also have a timeline for teaching throughout the year, with useful information and tips about what to do during each time of the year. Okay, another great resource. Here is the link where you can find this timeline for you to use during the school year. Also, we offer an updated award ceremony toolkit with great designs. As you can see here, you can download all these resources and celebrate your learners' success. Organize award ceremonies. We see how proud students and parents are and how they love, experiencing this kind of events. So it's a great initiative. If you haven't already tried organizing an award ceremony, we have all the resources you need to give it a try this year if you want. Also, our official Facebook page for teachers, Teaching English with Cambridge. Here you can also find some very interesting information, resources, and information about upcoming webinars. Our Instagram page as well, you can find it here. Please follow us also on Instagram, and you will see some very interesting information as well there. And last but not least, our Cambridge English YouTube channel on YouTube. You can find webinar recordings there, videos on different topics. There's such a wide variety of videos available there that can help you with teaching, but also videos that you can play during your classes to watch with your students, like exam day videos or speaking test videos, which are great also to enjoy with your learners as well and make them feel exam ready. Our Cambridge Dictionary is for free again, and you can find a great variety of features there, like new words or word of the day. You can also create your word list in there. If you log in, create an account and log in, you can create your word list and also ask your learners to do the same. This is a great tool for learning and practicing vocabulary. We also have videos about the exam day, like Sophia's story here, that you can watch with your students, and also videos about explaining the exam results so that you can help learners and their parents explain the results as soon as they receive the statement of results. So I'll try to skip this for now. And of course, every spring we offer webinars for learners, like top tips. So for B1 preliminary only, not A2 key. So we cover the levels from B1 up to C2. So we will keep you updated about the dates so that you can register your learners for those webinars. And then we hope this will make your learners feel exam ready and more confident for the exam day. Also, we have animated videos for these two levels that you can share with parents for them to understand more what these exams are about. And once again, just to remind you that we'll be looking forward to seeing you again soon on the next 2 Thursdays of February for the next 2 webinars, levels B2 up to C2. And of course, don't forget our Cambridge Day on the 24th of February. Because we noticed that the majority of the registrants was coming from Greece, we also thought to let you know about the upcoming webinar for parents in Greek, which is next Wednesday. And also you will find a link in the chat box if you're interested. Again, to remind you that you can contact our exam centers for any exam-related queries that you may have. Please find the exam centers in your country and contact them. And you can also contact us, or more specifically, you can request to be contacted. So now my colleague Zilla will paste in the chat box the link for you to complete a short form and ask to be contacted if you have any questions by the Cambridge team. So thank you very much. This was some main, information that would love to share with you about exam preparation, but also the news about CQ's Digital and the upcoming events. So thank you very much. Now the floor is all yours, Darren. Let's kick off the main part of today's webinar about exam preparation for A2 key and B1 preliminary for schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikki. Isn't she great, everyone? Thanks, Nikki. Let's see if I can get the tech to work, which is always tricky sometimes with teaching, isn't it? So let's go with that. Is that working, Nikki? Is that up?
Yes, Darren, yes.
Yes, it is, right. Excellent. So I've already spoken to some of you. We've got well over 500 and nearly 600, I think, attendees now on this webinar, which is massive. There's a lot of people from around the region. My name is Darren Perrett. I'm a teacher, ex-teacher, teacher trainer, examiner, and I work now obviously at Cambridge, and I head up a team responsible for assessment expertise, research, pedagogy, and recognition. Okay. I'm here today. It's a great honor to be here today to talk to all of you. I've worked in a few of those countries and been to many of them as well, where you're from. And if you ever see me in person, please stop me and come and say hello. But I'm here today to talk about A2 Key and B1 Preliminary with a specific focus on reading skills. It's going to be a more, hopefully, interactive session rather than me just talking at you, which is also a bad thing for any good teacher out there. Reduce my teacher talking time as much as possible. But because we want to hear from you, and we want you to, I want to understand that you've understood what we've said. Okay, so some people on this presentation so far have asked what the qualifications are. And of course, they're a step-by-step approach, curriculum-based approach to language learning and assessment, starting all the way from starters, pre-A1 on the Common European Framework, going all the way up to C2. And today we're focusing on the kind of A2, B1 level. And then we're going to move on next week to B2 and C1 and C2 the week after. All right, so that's the kind of exam step and the learning journey. I just want to start off with a little bit about learning material and talk about kind of what we've got to help you in the classroom, learning material to help. And obviously we've got lots of learning material, but these are some of the most popular ones that we have. Now, you see they're kind of based on the number of hours that you teach per week. Now, I'm very much interested if you could put in the chat, let me open the chat so I can see it at the same time. For people who teach primary level, which of these course books do you use? Guess What, Kids Box, Superminds, Power Up, or maybe the more kind of bilingual aspirational classes of Cambridge Primary Path. So we've got Superminds, Kids Box, Guess What. And if I've missed anything here, any Cambridge books which you do use, please put that in the chat as well, just so we can see if you're using other books as well. Yeah, I mean, Superminds and Guess What and Kids Box are super popular throughout the world. So it comes as no surprise to see. And then we've got Prepare, and I was going to come on to that next, actually. More of a secondary level. And if we look at the secondary level, we've got Own It, Shape It, Prepare, Compact, Complete, and Open World. The four on the right are official exam preparation. So again, could you just put in the chat if you're using any of these books, please? Think as well, it's also included there. And as you can see, it depends on the number of hours and the CFR level that you're teaching as well. Prepare, Own It, Think, Family, Friends, Oxford Skills. Okay, Compact and Complete. Think. Good. Yep. Okay. So, I mean, obviously our learning material are fully aligned to our assessment products, our assessments. And the assessment outcomes, the corpus, for example, all of the data we get from students who take our exams goes back into the learning material. And it's a cyclical thing which goes round, and we kind of learn from ourselves and learn from students to make our learning material better. So every year, in every kind of edition which comes out, it gets better and better. Good. Right. Thank you for that. So people who were in the YLE session last week will be familiar with this. And I'm just going to touch on this a little bit. But I'm sure there are people here who weren't in the last session. This is what's called cognitive processes that students go through when they read. And it starts off at kind of word recognition. At the very top there, you'll see understanding the letters, the orthographic, and then changing the orthographic into phonological understanding in one's mind. Okay, so do they recognize the word, and can they say it to themselves? Next comes the meaning in terms of the lexical search. So can they identify that word, and can they match it to a meaning? Then comes syntactic parsing, which is more about grammatical parsing of a text. Still at sentence level here, we're talking about. Propositional meaning is distinct meaning of a sentence. So can a candidate process a whole text, a whole sentence, sorry, and there's no inferencing going on here. It's not in any way kind of different to what the word meaning doesn't change. It's explicit on the page. And normally at B1 level, inferencing starts to come in. So you get inferencing coming in where they start to make judgments on a sentence at sentence level. As we go through the levels, the next coming weeks in these webinars, we'll move up down through to finally to the intertextual representation, which is a very complex process of reading. But today I just wanted to highlight that we're going into inferencing here. And at B1 level and A2 level, they do careful local reading at the sentence level. Sometimes they do kind of this global reading across a whole text and need to understand what the meaning is at the paragraph level, for example. But mainly it's a local level. Okay, anyway. That's a bit of theory. I don't want to bore you with that. Let's look at what we're going to look at today. So today, we're going to discuss your teaching situation, okay, your feelings and those of your learners about reading. We're going to look at some of the characteristics of good readers. And the majority of the session will be spent doing and discussing classroom activities, you'll be glad to hear. And finally, I'll tell you where you can get your hands on all the resources, like Nikki, a very short session though, compared to Nikki's, but about resources and teaching materials. Okay, so let's look at your situation. So as a teacher, I mean, these are some of my ideas of common problems that we have in the classroom. So number one, for example, I enjoy helping my learners develop their reading skills. It's hard to find interesting text and materials. Reading takes too long and is a poor use of class time. It can be difficult to motivate learners, especially those who don't read much in their first language. With a range of ability levels in the same class, I have to plan for fast finishers. So could you just have a look at those, please? And again, just drop into the chat which one of those points, maybe they're all of the points, but which of these points most align to your situation in the classroom? Can you just put this in the chat, please, by the numbers? Okay, so there's lots of ones and fours coming through. I think the majority here, some threes as well. Yeah. So, I mean, I've just come back from Greece when we've been having in-depth discussions with teachers there, talking about reading, and reading seems to be dropping off is the general consensus, that even in the first language, students don't seem to be motivated to or want to read. They read blogs or they read snippets or they watch videos now rather than read for fun. And okay, at A2 and B1 level, it's not so bad. When you get to the upper levels, it can be really troublesome. C2, C1, for example, that if they're not able to read even in their first language properly or don't enjoy reading, trying as teachers to make them read is a real problem. And number one there, of course, as teachers, we all enjoy, I think, promoting reading skills. And anyone who's taught from the very basis, you know, the pre-A1, A1 level, it's a joy. It's an absolute joy to see students progress and read and develop, okay? And sometimes, yeah, when you've got a 45-minute class and you've got text to read, it can take too long, and it can be a poor use of class time, potentially. But unfortunately, it is one of the skills that students need, the 4 skills, and it's something which we do need to focus on, because one of the weakest skills across the whole region is writing. And there's a strong correlation between the kind of passive knowledge of reading and the active knowledge of writing. So I think personally, I think that reading is essential to improve writing skills. Obviously, we'll come on to that in other sessions, but I think reading is really important and is something that we should focus on. Generally, across the region, speaking is the strongest skill. The communicative approach has been driven across for many years now, and you'll be glad to hear that speaking is the strongest skill amongst all students at all levels. But like I said, writing and reading tend to be the weakest. So maybe quite interesting to know. Okay. So some common challenges for teachers, of course, making time for reading, as we spoke about there, motivating learners who don't read much in their own language, finding interesting texts and materials can also be problematic sometimes. Once you've done the ones in the course book, where do you move on to next for extended or mixed ability classrooms? You know, how do you make sure that other students in the class can have extra material, and supporting a range of reading abilities, like I said, in the same class. So now let's think about the characteristics of good readers. If you're an English language teacher, there's a fair chance that you yourself are a good reader. Think of other people you know who you consider to be good readers too. Maybe learners that you've taught or family members. What do they think or do that makes them good readers? Please just have a think about that. And I just want you to drop into the chat what you think about that. What do they think or what do they do that makes them good learners? I'll tell you my ideas in a moment, but just write simple, you know, a couple of words. What makes them good learners? They read books in their spare time, inquisitive, practice it every day. Any other views? Consistency, read often, regularly. Yes, learning never stops. Learning never stops. Absolutely. English languages, not just, and if we focus on language, language never stops. It's forever, isn't it? Even as, you know, for native speakers, we're continually learning new language. Reading for enjoying, yes. Curiosity. Okay, good. Excellent. Some really nice answers coming up. Well, of course, this isn't an exhaustive list, and I think you've covered most of them. Good readers read a wide range of things. They read regularly. They use different reading skills also. So there is and we're going to come on to that, but at the lower levels, when they move into B1 and on to B2, if they have the same reading skills in that they're just reading every single word and not trying to skim or scan texts for information, then that can hold them back a bit. So as teachers, we need to teach them different reading skills. Guess the meaning of unknown words. Again, that's something which is a blocker for some readers. They come across a word and they stop and they're trying to understand it. They get the dictionary out. They don't try and just guess the word from the meaning, from the context within the sentence. And good readers record and reuse new vocabulary. So being inquisitive and enjoying reading, seeing a word, pulling it out, put it in their notebook, and then looking up the meaning later, and then rereading the text. And then, like I said, reflect on what they've read, and to think about what the opinion was or what that means. And at A2, B1 level, that's maybe easier to do, but as you go up through the levels, it's definitely something that readers have to do and are tested on, to reflect on what they've read and to give answers to opinions of the authors. And it is your role as teachers at A2 and B1 level to start to introduce this, because otherwise it gets very complex very quickly for them as they go up through the levels. So classroom activities. So we've got some teacher guides, which you might be familiar with. And here they are. They come with a separate booklet containing all the handouts that you need to do activities yourself in the classroom. On the left, you can see, which one is it? Hold on, click a bit more. You've got A2 key for schools and B1 preliminary on the right. And here is an example from A2 key and B1 preliminary for schools. Just something which is included within these. They come as PDFs, so they can be printed, displayed on screen, or viewed on the learner's own devices. And I'll show you where you can get these teachers' guides and handouts at the end of this session. Okay, but they're very useful, in my opinion, very useful. They help teachers to develop learners' reading skills. Okay, unfortunately, I can't go through all. I don't have time to go through absolutely every single task type today across A2 and B1 level, but I'm going to focus on the ones which I think have the most impact. And like I said earlier, the blockers for me are when students don't know how to skim and scan and are not able to understand a text and its meaning. So we're going to focus on that. I mean, it's useful for readers to know some general information about a text before choosing to read it carefully. And, you know, that careful local reading I talked about earlier. But what is that information? So what can you think about? What do readers need to know about a text to understand it? Can you just drop that in the text, in the chat, please? What you think readers need to know about a text. And we're talking at A2 key here. These are short texts, 35, 40 words or something. What do they need to know about it? Please drop in the chat. So we've got the type of text, topic, context, the author, main idea. Good. Blocking words, yeah. Gist, context and topic. Oh, these are great answers. I can see you're all excellent and very experienced teachers. Well, they need to know the text type. So for example, is it a notice, an email, or maybe a recipe or something like this? They need to know who it was written for. So who is the intended audience? They need to know who it was written by. Okay, and finally, they need to know, why it was written. So what's the purpose of the text? Is it to entertain, provide information, to make an arrangement with their friends or their teachers or something like this? So the 4 things you can see at the top there. What text type is it? Who was it written for? Who wrote it? And why? Okay, and I'm going to say that again because it's really important, because I'm going to give you an exercise in a moment on this. So what text type is it? Who was it written for? Who wrote it? And why did they write it? Remember, you and your students, you know, when we read, or when, yeah, not just your students, we as readers don't have time to read every single word. So try to focus on the layout, headings, obvious connections between words, topic. The text at the top and the bottom often contains clues about who it is written by and for. Okay, so I'm going to give you a text now. Here we go. And before I do that, actually, I'm going to flip back. This is going to stay on screen for about less than 10 seconds. So I want you to think about what text type it is, who it was written for, who wrote it, and why. Here we go. Okay. Right, so please, in the chat, answer, what text type is it? Who was it written for? Who wrote it, and why? Blog for teachers, article. Who wrote it? To inform, to give information. Good. Yep. Cambridge wrote it. Yep. Cambridge support. Cambridge. Good. I'm glad some of you noticed that. But teacher trainers at Cambridge wrote it. And they did it to help you as teachers. Okay. So that was an example for you. I'm going to flash up on the screen now one that we have for students. So I want you to do exactly the same now, but this is one from an exam. You ready? Here we go. Okay, same again, please. What text type is it? Who was it written for? Who wrote it and why? Child to parent for dad, yes. Email, text message, it's a text message. Yeah, good. Yep, to inform, to pass on information, yes. Good, good. Finally, here we go, one more. A bit quick, that one. Announcement, teachers. Notice boards, yeah, notice boards to students from the school. It's an announcement. Good. Whoever wrote that, that was excellent. That's absolutely what it is. Excellent. Well done, everyone. So, as well as helping learners develop their skimming and scamming skills, it provides them with a good way of approaching part 1 reading paper. Get them to practice this with them with sample papers which are available. And again, it can be just a 10-second thing that they have 10 seconds to read and then put the paper back down again. Okay, and in the reading brochure that we talked about, I'm going to show there are some examples of this and some things that you can do here. Okay, so the skimming stage is just part of an activity. This is called skimming, what we just did there. So after skimming the text, what do they have to do next? Well, they have to highlight key information in this part. So they first skim the text, quick 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds. And so they get to answer those 4 questions that we talked about. Then they highlight the key information within the text. They scan the text for this key information and explain why the options are correct and incorrect. So this is a nice activity to do with them. And we're going to look at this now in more detail. So let's reflect upon this activity for the moment. So tell me, what reading skills did you use? Again, please put this into the chat. Let's make it as interactive as possible, please. What reading skills did you use when doing that exercise? Fast reading, cognitive, skimming, scanning. Okay, good, 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 good. So think about, when do we skim? What's the purpose of skimming? Why do we do it? When we've got a text like that, why do we skim? What do you think? For the main idea, to save time. Well, to save time, yes, but to get an understanding of the text. You can quickly read, flash through a text and get the main idea. And that's the purpose of skimming. So if skimming is to get the main idea, so how do we do it generally? I mean, everyone maybe has a slightly different approach to skimming, but how do we do it? How do we do it? How do you skim? It's okay to say skim the text, but how would you explain this to a student? Yeah, okay, so you look at the titles, yes. If there's a title there that gives you information, you look at the information, dear students or something, whatever is there also if it's an announcement like this. And then you look at the bottom who it's from. So straight away you've got an announcement and the title of it and who it's from, who it's to. And then you can quickly also look at the content to get an understanding of those keywords within. So good. So then that leads on to this. When do we scan then? So what we just talked about there was skimming to get the main idea of a text. So when do we scan? Can somebody give me an example task or question that you would ask somebody to scan something? Yeah, good. So looking for specific information, so time, dates, telephone numbers, for example, something like this. They don't need to skim the text, do they? Well, they've skimmed it already, but now you say, what's David's telephone number? Is this David's telephone number? And they find it in the text. They don't need anything else. They scan for the specific information in the text. And, you know, A2, B1 level, that's the kind of level we're looking at, getting that key information. As you move up to C1 and C2, obviously it gets more complex, but this is what we do and why we do it. Yeah, and I just talked about there how we scan as well. Some people approach it a little bit differently, but of course, if you know it's a phone number, if you know it's a date, you just scan the text for those dates, and there may be multiple dates there, most probably. And so what's going to happen with a reading text is that they'll find a date or a couple of dates, and then they have to do careful reading around those dates to understand which one it is, okay, that they need to choose and to get the understanding. So here's an example of a reading part 1 question from the A2 Key for Schools exam. If seeing the text for the first time, I'd use the previous skimming activity to provide important contextual information. That it's a notice from the school for students with information about books, right? Get learners to explain the task to you. What must they do? So let's pretend you're the learners again. And please tell me in the chat, okay, what you have to do here. What are the 4 things that you have to do? Can you remember from before what I told you? The 4 things. I don't want the answer. I don't want the answer. Don't give me the answer. I'm not testing you on the answer. We're doing, yes, who wrote it? Scanning, skimming, notice, teacher to students, yes. I would expect everyone here to get this right, by the way. Yep, so we've got the task that we have to do. We have to look at each option, and we need to look at who is mentioned and what are they doing. So there's the who, and in the blue, what they are doing there. So all students, the school, you, and you can see here that this is a great way of actually doing it in the classroom, if with highlighters or different colors, and they can circle the who and the what. And so that's key when you look at the distractors and the items in the text. Okay. And then, of course, when you go to the, the actual text itself, then you highlight the you, and the what, and underline that. Okay, so it's a nice way to do it, and this is the fundamentals of, if you like, reading. So that I mean, it's a task, it's a multiple choice task, so it's not necessarily reading, but it's a good way, well, one of the only ways really for you as teachers to understand if the students have understood the text and what they have to do, that they can highlight the what and the who in the text. It's a very, very good idea. Okay. Right. We'll stop there for a pause, for a reflection on this part. And do you have any questions about these activities from what we've done in it? Can you just drop this in the Q&A, please? Not the chat, actually. Can you put it on the Q&A if you've got any questions now, and I'll pick those up. Otherwise, you can wait to the end and we can answer it at the end. Just seeing if there's anything. How can we help students in improving the skimming and scamming skills? I find it's a matter of practice with skimming. and getting key information and reducing the time that they have to read something. And so maybe you want to, if they're struggling with the vocabulary, of course, first you need to teach the vocabulary to them to make sure that they're not going to, like the title vocabulary and the to and the but who it's written by and why it's written. If that vocabulary is understood by them independently, then it should be okay to do this kind of flash 10-second skimming exercise. And you could do this with absolutely any text. It doesn't need to be specific to the course book, of course. You could just quickly give them a text of about the same length and just say, okay, 10 seconds, go. Now talk to your partner and what's it about? Who's it written by? Who's it written for? And why is it written? And I think that's a nice exercise. You could even start the class with it. It's an introductory thing every class time that you have that takes no more than a minute or 2 minutes. And once all students know what they have to do, it can be a regular thing and really quite simple. You as teachers just need to produce the content, of course. Just looking if there's anything. Okay, yeah, what about the unknown words? Should they look for them before skimming, scanning? I would say that as a teacher, it's your job to teach the unknown words if it's going to have an effect on the ability to answer those 4 points. If it's an unknown word, which is there but doesn't actually affect those 4 points, then you can leave it there. And if they aren't able to do it because they are trying to read everything, and understand every word, then you need to enforce that for them. Just forget that. If they don't know a word, just move on very quickly. Just forget about it. And again, that just comes with practice. Okay, good. So it's how does this focus on specific skills? By flashing up the text you had to skim, it was the only way to successfully complete the activity. So it is a specific skill. Do these activities test or develop reading and language skills? So do they test or do they develop reading and language skills? It's a good question. In the chat, please. Do they test or do they develop reading and language skills? What do you think? Okay, well, you're right in that, of course, it's both. As a teacher, you get the feedback at the end. But what they do mainly is develop reading and language skills. So it's not about the testing. This is actually a reading skill that they need to develop, okay? And by doing it, yes, it's a test, but actually it's the development of it. The test is just the feedback to you as a teacher that they got it right. But by doing this exercise, it's not like practicing for a particular testing point. It's actually a development of their reading skills. So I think you should be doing this in the class always. Always do it with them. Absolutely and anyone who's got a decent course book in front of them in the class will be familiar with this. That's the first task is always a skimming task. What's the text about? Look at the picture. What are we going to talk about? Get them thinking about what's going to come up in the text, because this opens up their minds and or their kind of long-term memory, so that they can then think about, okay, we're talking about the environment, or we're talking about school, or and I'm going to expect these kinds of words to come up. So by skimming this and through a text quickly, this happens in the learning process. Yes, students must understand it's a long-term process to learn to read. Absolutely. But it can be fun. Learning can be fun as well. And learning can be mediated into reading into writing as well, or reading into speaking. And with mixed ability classes, this is possible also, that you can get stronger students to kind of expand into a writing exercise, whilst the slower students are maybe just focusing on a reading exercise, for example. So there's lots of things that you can do here. Okay. So how could these activities be developed? How do you think these activities could be developed? Sorry, developed. How could these activities be adapted? Well, I think I've answered it already. Different texts, different papers and pens and digital devices could be used. Just absolutely anything which is about reading, and you can adapt it. So don't wait for this to happen in the course book. I would say implement it in every single class that you go into. And I like to do it at the beginning of the class. It's a nice, simple thing. And also you can have it as homework. So, and when I say homework, I mean, they have to produce a text for homework. They bring it in and their peers have to read it quickly and then report back to the person that wrote it what they did at the weekend, for example. So it's a nice kind of activity to get them doing something, writing and reading. Okay, let's move on to the B1 preliminary for schools. And this is taken from the Teacher's Guide again. You'll be able to take many of these ideas and apply them to other texts and levels, parts of the exam. And this is why we're kind of focusing purely on these at the moment. So, test time. I love testing. What are the 4 things that we said that we need to do for the skimming exercise? Can you remember what they were? The 4 things that you need to introduce to students and what they need to look for. I'll give you the first one. It was, what text type is it? Type of text, who wrote it, by whom, and why. Good, 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 good. Yes. We love a good test here at Cambridge. Good. Yes. So it's about what text type is it? Who was it written for? Who wrote it? And why? Finally, why was it written? Okay. Oops, sorry, let me go back. Now, I'm going to give you another text now. Remember, you don't have time to read every word, so try to focus on the headings, the types of words that are frequently used, and the layout. Okay, and I want you to answer these 4 questions. All right, are you ready? Any answers in the text? It's a very quick flash up for you guys, but I know you're experienced teachers, so that should be fairly straightforward. Obviously, give students a little bit more time. Yes, so it's a guidebook for tourists or visitors to a town, and it's written to provide them with information to help them decide where to go, maybe to encourage them to come. Okay, and here's the text. But how do we know that? How do we know that? Okay. Well, let's look at the question that came with this task type first of all. The young people below all want to visit an interesting museum. Decide which museum would be the most suitable for people below. Okay, and again, if we start looking through and highlighting key information, and so Yuki and Hitachi are keen to discover how children played in the past. Their parents want to visit a historical building, but also spend time in the open air. Okay. So we've got here, yes, discover how children played in the past, and to visit a historical building, and to spend time in the open air. Okay, so we've got that information, but let's now pull that information out here and start to look at it in the text. So they're keen to discover how children played in the past. So now as this is like more of a scanning exercise coming in, isn't it? Children's games from centuries ago, great collection of dolls' houses, early puzzles and games from the period in the past. So again, they're linking words with this. And then if we look at, they want to visit a historical building, well, 18th century house. And if you look in the first text, there's nothing really there in the first text, which talks about a historical building. So again, it's about matching across. And then finally, surrounded by a beautiful park where you can have a picnic, but also spend time in the open air. Okay, so again, matching exercise there for specific information in the text. So you start off by doing a skimming exercise around the text. What is it going to talk about? Why is it going to talk about it? And then you go into the information, highlight the key information in the text, and then match it to the next exercise. So should Yuki and family go to O'Farrell's or Glaze House, do you think? What's the answer here? Absolutely, it's Glaze House. Yes, good, because they can match those three things. All right. So you see, this is not about, this is a reading skill. And by doing this and highlighting information in the text, you're developing reading skills. You're not testing them, although, you know, you are testing. Everything we do as teachers is testing, but it's not about careful local reading. They don't have to read carefully every single word across all of this information. They just need to find key information in the text. Okay, and after skimming, the scanning kind of comes in, and I mean, at the end, they can go back and double check with a careful reading exercise that they read every single word and go through the sentences. That's fine, but it's not something that they should do straight away. So you need to encourage this as teachers for this, specifically for this task type in the test. Okay. So there are some questions coming in. Pressure as okay. Yeah, I mean, okay, outside of in the testing scenario, we obviously have practicality issues in terms of how much time they have to read. Now, how they read and how they approach a text is something else. Think about why people read. If it's literature, they're reading carefully and they're reading every single word, every sentence to build up a picture of why they're reading. Okay, so that's something different. However, if they've got 8 texts to choose from, like in this task type, they need to choose quickly the key information. Why waste your time in reading for all detail when you just want to highlight the specific information and to be able to choose the correct place where to travel to, like with this family too, chose here, the question was. So that's the point here, that there are different reading approaches. So that in a lot of instances, it is time pressured, in fact. We don't have time to read everything all of the time. And as you move up through the levels, there are articles that students need to read, you know, texts that they need to read, much, much more complex than this, but they have to choose the correct text for the one, because we don't want to spend our time reading and fully understanding a text if it's not useful for our purpose. So hopefully that answers that question there. And yeah, 8, someone put there, Nicoletta said, oh yeah, but they have 8 texts to choose from. Yes, they do. That's why you have to do it quickly, like I said. It's time-saving exercise there. Good, good. Okay. So now learners should be familiar with this exam task and what's expected of them and how to complete it. But we're not quite finished yet. Here are some ways of extending and supporting learning. we could get learners to reflect upon the reading skills that they will need to use when completing the task, as we did before, right? So I asked that kind of question of you: what reading skills did you use? And I'm telling you, as I've seen this many times, that students tend to read from start to finish of a text and want to understand every single word, get stopped on a word, get stuck. And it's our job as teachers to explain to them that there are different reading approaches for different reading tasks, not an exam, in life. Whether that's at a train station, at a bus station, looking for information. At the bus station, you wouldn't read absolutely everything. You'd find the destination you want first and then go to careful reading, for example. So there are many kind of situations like that. So yeah, get them to reflect upon the reading skills they'll need to know. And then we can focus learnings on the process of how to do it. Okay. Again, there's a process to reading and to doing this task type specifically. And as every good teacher should, I'm going to test you now. I've grayed out some of the words. Can you think about the word that's grayed out and put it into the chat, please, what you think they are? Someone put Kim in the chat. Yeah, that confused me. Yes, it's the, the missing letters. Yeah, yeah. So number one is, of course, skim the text. Yes, skim the text. And number two then is read the rubric carefully. So you skim the text, get an understanding of what the text is about. You read the rubric carefully to understand what you need to do. Number three, identify and highlight key details within the text. Okay. The key details, not in the text, in the question or the purpose of the text itself. When with that example of the family who wanted to travel somewhere, what was the key details that they wanted to have from their trip? And then you scan and highlight key details in the main text, and that's something that you can do. And then the last simple part is to choose the best option. And at this level, if you can highlight that key information and you're able to do that, then number 5 is really simple. Yeah. Someone's just written here, one way I try overcoming that, especially with slightly older students, is by getting to reading part 1 gap text and telling me what the text is about, and then highlight the fact that you can infer meaning even if some words aren't there. Absolutely, you can. Yes, it gets the mind thinking about what they can expect to come next. And this is, as we read for fun, also for literature, this is what we do. We read something and we expect something to come, and when maybe it doesn't come or is out, then that's a surprise to us. But students at a young age, they don't have this skill necessarily. They're not thinking like this. So as teachers, we do need to teach them that this is the approach. So I would ask learners to note these stages and refer back to them when working on similar reading activities, if they're practicing something. Or you can have it up on the wall and you can just, they just need to get into a routine, whatever the best way is for your students to get into the routine here for this. So now learners should be familiar with the exam task, know what's expected of them and how to complete it. Okay. Do you have any questions about this activity? I think it's quite clear what should be done there. And I think it's a very nice exercise, like I said, which can be introduced at any level. In fact, you just increase the complexity going up to C2 and decrease the complexity going down to pre-A1. Yep, everything's clear. Good. Goodbye, Hannah. Hannah needs to shoot off. Right. So think about how the learner is supported through this. Well, they get walked through the process step by step. Learners see how the answers are arrived at and why the incorrect answers are incorrect. There are frequent opportunities to learn from others. And yeah, I think this is clear. Yes, of course, it can be adapted. Right, okay. So as well as providing familiarity with each part of the reading paper and developing reading skills, these booklets that I'm getting this information from also suggest classroom activities that teachers can use to help learners with vocabulary, grammar, and other features of discourse. While it doesn't lend itself to being demonstrated in a webinar, if you're not already familiar with Dictogloss, I'd recommend checking it out. This one's from the A2 Key for Schools Teacher's Guide. Okay, a bit of a Dictogloss going on here. There are some energizing, competitive, and collaborative activities like this one for vocabulary development through antonyms and synonyms, and communicative activities like this survey, which gets learners talking about themselves, activating topic-specific vocabulary while being focused on tricky multi-word verbs, for example. All at kind of B1 level, or A2, okay? So, top tips for developing reading skills. Reveal sentences, elicit missing words in the chat, please, on this. So what's the answer here? Show in what learners read. Pull the chat up so I can see what you're writing. Yeah, show an interest in what learners read. Good, nice and easy. Help learners think about different and when to use them. Yep, reading skills. Help learners think about different ways they read texts. If they're reading from information leaflet, ask them to scan the text to find specific information. If they're reading a message, ask them to think about how they would reply. Get learners to work out or guess the meaning of unknown. Yeah, easy one. Words. Remind learners to highlight and underline key information. Sounds very simple, but sometimes we forget to do this with learners, and it can make the learning process more enjoyable for teenagers, especially highlighting different colors and circling and underlining. So yeah, that's something that we should do. Oh, a bit more difficult, this one. Familiarize learners with exam task types and provide a process. And finally, as every good teacher should know, give your learners plenty of practice. Absolutely. Practice makes perfect, right? These are just my kind of top tips for developing reading skills generally, that you can do across a lot of the task types. But I'm sure you have yours, and please, you can feel free to drop them into the chat if you have other approaches which work for you in your classroom you want to share with the 500 odd people that are here today, or 600 actually, 600 people now. Take notes, encourage readers' visits to libraries, book reviews, make them relevant to the learner. Yes, absolutely. Someone has to go and teach now. Go and teach reading. Yes. Inspire them. Yes. Jigsaw activities. Absolutely, jigsaw activities are great, aren't they? For getting and piecing together the kind of the flow of text. Vocabulary, matching exercise, synonyms. Yeah, great. Yes. Ebooks. Yeah, links to ebooks. Get them interested in digital reading as well, especially with digital testing now as well. They need to get used to reading text on the screen. Yeah, good. Right. I'm just going to finish with some resources and tools, okay? And of course, everything you can find on our website, cambridgeenglish.org. And yeah, there's lots of information on there. If you go to cambridgeenglish.org and if you go to Teaching English from the top menu, okay, scroll down to the next page. There's lots of resources that leave you to explore another time. But if you select resources for teachers here, you come to this kind of page, and then you can choose the level that you're interested in, select what you want, for example, teacher guide, and then hit search. Simples. And then you get this, yes. You know, expand the plus points and you get multiple teacher guides coming up through here. There's one for you. A2 Key for Schools, Developing Reading Skills, PDF. Okay, lots of things for you there. Okay, there's of course this is what we've been working on today, developing reading skills for Cambridge English qualifications, a guide for teachers. Remember, our qualifications are curriculum focused, they're embedded in the learning journey. So by preparing for Cambridge qualifications, you are in fact, you know, preparing students for life, for their learning journey. Lots of extra resources available, lots. I'm not going to go through those today. Nikki's been through a lot of these as well. I'm just going to flash them up on the screen now. Word lists, yeah, for me, A2 Key to B1 preliminary. What you can expect to be in the exam. So if they know these words, there's a good chance that there won't be any words which will hinder their progress in the test. Download reading guides. Again, we're going to show you all this at the end. I'll pass this to you so you can click on these and go through. Mock tests all the way from A2 to C2 proficiency, test and train, A2 Key for Schools, exam lift, free of charge app for students to use, focus on the 4 skills, reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And I've rattled through that very quickly, and I'm going to stop there and say thank you very much. I hope that you found this useful, and hopefully that you can now transfer some of those activities into the classroom. And here at Cambridge would be really useful for us to understand if this has been useful for you. So feedback to us, feel free to feedback to us about if this helped for your classroom and whether your students find it useful as well. I'm going to flick open the Q&A box now, I think. Well, let's just make sure there's nothing in the chat. Everyone's saying thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. So just going to go through some of the, can I put this here? Nikki, are you there? Can you see the Q&A box now on my screen?
Of course, Darren.
Yep. This top one from Ahmed. Nikki, can you get back to them about that, please? That's an English Academy. What about C2 level? Which books do you recommend? Well, Katerina, please come to my C2 seminar, please, on my webinar, and I'll give you some top tips on that one. In Poland, you have the same problem about a lot of students. They don't read in Polish. It is a problem across the globe now, 21st century issue, that students are not reading for fun anymore. They've lost this desire, or somehow something's happened with technology has taken over, of course, and they don't sit down and read books anymore. A teacher in international school in Ireland. Hello, Mary. Over the past few years, I've been battling against the use of translator pens and other digital devices. Of course, this helps my second level learners to access the curriculum, but it doesn't help them to improve their reading skills in English. How to bypass tools like that? Well, if it has to be a school policy, I think you have to, internally as teachers, you have to demand it, that this is harming the way that students are reading. But At home, at homework, I'm not sure how you stop that, to be honest. If anyone's got any ideas, please drop it in the chat, because it's an interesting one. Are there other guides for other skills too, Larissa? Yes, there are. Yes, for all 4 skills. You can find those online. Can we do it for an essay? Yes, Ahmed, yes. You can do it. This kind of skimming, scanning exercise can be done for any text. You as a teacher just need to find, maybe for scanning, the specific information that you want students to find. And but the skimming is just, it's a free exercise for you as a teacher. You give them a text and say, skim this, go and find the, you've got 10, 15 seconds now to give me the key information, or what is this text about? Who is it written by? Who's it written for? And why? And they can come back and they can do pair work. And so there's speaking activities. They can transfer this into a writing activity. You can see how this can quickly develop into 15, 20 minutes of the classroom time almost, if you're struggling for time. But I know that a lot of teachers don't have enough time to teach this. But I think you can see that reading, at the beginning, someone said that they don't have enough time for reading in the classroom. Well, if you're doing all 4 skills, I think this can be integrated into all 4 skills in a nice, simple way. Highlighters in Cambridge exams now. Yeah, if they're taking the Cambridge New 365 digital test, they can highlight the text, and so they can go through and highlight on the screen and make notes and things like this. It's excellent tool. How could we possibly it's moving down. How could we possibly prepare readers at this level that still find reading intolerable due to the degree and variation of sound from the Greek language to English? They do not like to read aloud because of the changes needed in their tone of voice. At the word recognition level, it's about the orthographic understanding. They can read t, h, and a, but then they need to phonologically have this in their mind. They don't need to read it out loud. They have to read it in their head. They have to understand the kind of form and meaning, form and punctuation. So they need to go through and understand what this is in their head. Then they need to get the meaning from that. But I understand it can be an issue, but that, as part of teaching and part of the level progress, is what you have to do, of course. Should we ask them to read the text loudly in the class? Okay, well, you could do this for a mixed ability class. So you could have the more advanced students read the text out loud whilst the others are reading it at the same time. But that's not a skimming and scanning exercise then, is it? So you could do the scanning exercise potentially, but that would be turning it more into a listening exercise. So it depends on the dynamic of the classroom. I'm going to answer that one with, but you could definitely integrate reading aloud. The material will be sent to you, all the links, etc. Alexandria. Yes, I'm coming to Alexandria somewhere, I can't remember the dates. It's coming up soon, April time, I think. I'll be in Alexandria. So we will send out information, so watch out for that. That's Alexandria in Romania, not Egypt. Will the Exam Lift app in Cambridge Viva include practice for higher levels in the future? Potentially, yes, it's something that we're working on. Are students allowed to highlight under, we've done that one, haven't we? How would we go about teaching vocabulary? Would you assign it as homework or work in class? Okay, I think if it's blocking words, if it's essential words for a text, then that needs to be taught in class. If it's extra words in a reading text, then that could be done at home. So you ask students to write down the words they don't understand in a text and in their notepad, and for homework find out the meaning of those words and then ask them to do the exercise again. But the blocking words absolutely should be taught in class, in my opinion. Oh, Irina Davidovich, that's an interesting one. Don't you think children lose the interest to read because we teach them to skim text too much? Okay, potentially, yes. There needs to be a balance. There needs to be a balance of the different reading purposes. So you can't just do skimming and scanning. You need to do careful local, careful global reading across, when you go up the other extreme levels, you need a whole text and you need to understand what the author's opinion is. You need to develop that as well as this exercise. But this is the starting point. This is the starting point that they need to overcome. So if they can do this, they could switch to this kind of reading when they have to, and they don't do careful local, because that's a different reading skill. So yes, you need to practice all four different reading skills. Will you come in Bucharest, Romania? I was there 3 weeks ago at the Cambridge Day Bucharest. I'm coming back. I will be there in, again, April, I think, sometime. I'm not sure, but no, I'm not presenting in Bucharest. But yeah, you've just missed me. And what else? We got any other questions? English is not a native language for my students, so they're interested only in learning grammar. How to develop reading skill among them? Well, my approach to teaching is more the reverse of this, so that I don't drill grammar with them, and at this level, mistakes are allowed to be made when they produce language, whether that's it's spoken or written when in the productive skills. So for the reading part, I focus more on extracting the meaning and develop it in a passive way, the grammar skills passively this way. They just need to be able to understand, I don't know, when the future tense is used and how this impacts the meaning. So for me, meaning form pronunciation, the kind of building blocks of teaching. Yes, I start with meaning all of the time. What's the meaning of this text, and try to elicit from the students and try to get them to think about how this is used. So the form part can come almost last. And they can look at that form, meaning grammar, and so they can, okay, so that when I use it in that structure, that means that, right, got it. But that's the last part of the process. Other teachers do it other ways, but that's the way I prefer to do it. How to teach students to deal with distractors in multiple choice exercise. So this, we looked at this with highlighting where things are in the text. Distractors are there to distract in that the information can be found in the text, but it's not quite there. So they need to find the distractors in the text also, or part of the distractor in the text, if that makes sense. So it's always going to be in the text. They need to find it, and they need to highlight it, or they need to understand that it's not. So the key to getting the key is to eliminate the distractors. That's the process that students should go through. Some of them are really easy. Nope. But they have to do this. And it's really important at the higher levels, because it can get really quite tricky sometimes to understand. And don't just go with your gut instinct. Oh, it's that one. Think, okay, why is it that one? Why is it A? Why is it not B? And why is it not C for this exercise, for this task? And go through and not, deselect the distractors somehow, and by finding the information or not finding the information in the text. Okay, I think I have answered all the questions, haven't I? How can we find synonyms to a word that's in the text? What can we tell our students to do? Okay, so what can you do with this? Multiple ways you can build an exercise. You could ask students to change the words themselves, to find the words online. If they don't have access to dictionaries, synonym dictionaries, what they could do is just go around and test other students in the class. Somebody in that class will have a synonym for that, and they can write down as many synonyms as they can for that particular word. And that can be quite a fun activity to do. You as teachers, of course, can do this. If you're teaching that specific vocabulary, you could have the synonyms around, or the antonyms around the room as well. But in the reading guides, if you look at them, there are some activities related to synonyms and antonyms. What about unknown words? Should they look for them before skimming and scamming? No. No, they shouldn't. I think I've answered that one, haven't I? Scanning is not about finding unknown words. If the unknown word is the blocker to understanding the whole text and to be able to answer the question, then that should have been taught beforehand. But if it's just an unknown word, then they can just move on from that and guess the meaning from the context somehow. Encourage that, I should say. Okay, Nikki, I think we're done, aren't we?
Yes, Darren, you've answered the question, so yep. Just for those asking about the certificate of attendance for this session, this will be sent to your email addresses next week. And for those who have attended the YLE session last week, the email with the webinar recording and the survey to complete in order to access the certificate was sent to you via email yesterday. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending our webinars, and we hope to see you again next week for the B2 First for Schools, a focus on reading skills webinar with Darren Perrett. Thank you very much, Darren, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much for attending. Bye-bye.